Yes, guys, locked in. Part three. We're jumping on with our boy Mondli today, discussing education, investments, service accommodation. So episode three, locked in. Let's get it. Obviously, appreciate you jumping on today, mate. Third podcast out at the minute. So yeah, no, like I said, appreciate you jumping on. Want to just hear about other people's stories, how you kind of got into the property game, what the plans looking like moving forward, obstacles, good things, bad things, all the rest of
Course,
it in
yeah.
between. So I suppose first thing would just be a little bit of background on yourself and kind of yeah, just tell us how the brand came about.
Sure, yeah. Firstly, thanks for having me on the podcast. Quite keen on it myself. Property, I've been keen on property from day one, really. My dad's in property as well, just in a different country. So I went to university, did my master's in real estate, started working in a land and development company, and they had a management team as well, where they were doing Airbnbs as well as just sort of conventional lets. And they gave me a portfolio to take over, and through that, I realized, it's a relatively low barrier of entry from my point of view. And then October last year, I jumped ship and started my own little outfit. I say outfit, I'm on my own.
Nice.
But yeah, we've gone going on the let side, focusing more on service accommodation. I find there's less red tape in that area. And then I'll be launching a lettings department early next year. Fingers crossed, all goes to plan.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, that's how it kind of just got started organically. I went into the company, went into a different role. From that role, I thought, you know what, I may as well get my own thing going as well. And it's been about a year now, I think, since I've officially left that company. So
Perfect. No, perfect.
Nice.
Really appreciate it. And I, resonating from Evan, we're really excited to have you on the podcast. I think for us, it's quite important to look at different avenues. Getting involved from your side. We and you see from our first couple of podcasts, we've done a lot of preaching around avenues away from university, but you've taken
of
the
course,
route
yeah,
of going to university and actually taking a degree in real estate to kind of push yourself forward.
of course,
My,
yeah.
my my first question on that, I mean, I haven't spoken to anyone that's kind of done a degree in real estate. How has that been transferable? What have you taken from that that's allowed you to maybe be a bit further ahead than others
Sure.
that are learning from scratch?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I do have, generally speaking, I'd say what you're saying is 100% true. I think university might not necessarily always bring the amount of value people expect. For me, what I benefited was the networking element of it. I met loads of people of like-minded
Yeah,
mindsets. Lots of people's parents were in property already, and those are the people I'm reaching out to today when I'm trying to get new leads. I also gained a deeper appreciation on some of for the land side of things. I gained an understanding on how the planning process works, conceptually how people bridge the gap between an investor and say an actual investment opportunity. So
yeah,
it was more gaining an understanding on how the industry might operate, but there's nothing beats first-hand industry experience. But
sure.
that's what I gained from it was predominantly the networking element and a deeper understanding on some of the things you might need to consider down the line, which don't come as much of a surprise to me now because I've kind of seen it. If
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not
you've kind of
completely,
had some of those experiences without a cost attached, well, the cost of university, but in terms
of
of a
course,
cost
yeah,
attached to losing, set amount
yeah,
because you made
yeah.
that mistake that you didn't know. It's interesting. And those guys that you went to university with, are a lot of them still in the real estate game? Are they moved
Um,
on?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. I mean, some people went a completely different route altogether. I've got one friend who went down the sales route. He's completely walked away from real estate. But then I know two people. One works in Savills now. So if you want to go down the employment route, it does make sense because you get one step closer to your qualification. Some people are pursuing RICS, which is
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're probably familiar with RICS. So you have to do the course, and some people have used that to obviously get their foot on the ladder, start working underneath a RICS advisor, and hopefully become fellow RICS down the line if that's what
Yeah.
they desire, of course.
Yeah. No, I think it differentiates quite nicely, right? You've got, I think I'm sure you'd agree with this, that potentially your personal business maybe wasn't developed from going to university and
Oh no,
the
yeah,
skills you learn, But if someone, like you say, wants to have that in place, not everyone wants to set up their own business, right? Some people
Of
want
course.
those qualifications in place to have a nice job, easy life, work through that way, which is fine. And in that avenue, it makes sense that that kind of university standpoint, you get the qualifications, you get the degrees.
I suppose it's the same as anything. How you kind of employ it yourself, or how you use it. If you like, for yourself, you knew exactly what you wanted to do. Real estate was that, and you wanted to learn everything and anything involved in it. Whereas, say for example, if you went to university and then weren't quite sure, it can then sometimes become a little bit more blurred, I think.
Of course, yeah.
Having a direction from yourself is massive. But same as you mentioned. No, I don't think I've come across a real estate degree before, so that's really interesting to know that that's something that people can explore in more detail as well, for sure. So,
to be fair, my father was saying the same thing. He didn't actually realize there was a degree dedicated specifically to real estate. And when I first started out, I thought it was too broad. It wasn't quite specific. It was like you're doing planning, valuation, all sorts of different things. But that just helped me gain a deeper appreciation for what I actually want to do. I realized maybe the detail stuff isn't necessarily where I'd start. If it has to be done, it has to be done. But I'd rather go see a site, do an appraisal, and view it from that lens, as opposed to being a bit more details with drawings or whatever it is. That's not necessarily where I would start myself. So it does have its benefits in that respect.
I think it's important as well, because it's just as important that you see the things you don't want to do, or that you don't want to take forward, as well as what you do like and what you do want to do. Because otherwise,
100%.
like Evan says, I've got friends that didn't know what they were going to do, went to university because 99% of people did economics or something that was kind of broad that sounded good, but then 3 years later they're back at home, trying to get a job alongside a million other graduates who have got a similar kind of broad degree. So it can be difficult. I think that minefield, 18 to 23, 24 to 25, it can be very difficult.
Definitely. I mean, like I said earlier, for me, I was lucky that I knew property was what I wanted to do from the get-go. So coming into university, it would have had to be it would have to have been a calamity for me to have walked away from real estate, even now. So fortunately for me, it just helped me focus a bit more on what areas I thought would work for me and what I enjoyed. So
Nice. And then let's take that then. So you come out university, you go, where did you start in terms of employment? Was it land?
So I was doing some internships whilst I was in university. I'll be honest, for my master's degree, I secured an internship which reduced my dissertation by 10,000 words.
Nice.
So I had to secure that one.
Secured the bag on that one for sure. Yeah.
It had to be done. So that was a management company. They actually focused on student lets. So me being a student, they found I could bring some value in that area. Then after my master's, I went into land and development. That company was speaking to me throughout the majority of my master's, so I already knew the people. I'd literally just knocked on the door and open up that conversation. And it was classed as a land consultant, so to speak. What we're doing there was sourcing sites and then getting them through the planning process to dispose to developers on an uplifted value. And obviously, as you can appreciate, that's a slow burning process. So that's where I spent the majority of last year.
And how was that first transition, from the university degree and more downtime, more kind of flexibility to 9 to 5 or what the set hours were?
Yeah, I mean, that transition? I think so. I've done a placement year before. And I found that during the placement year, that was that opened my eyes to I realized there was a lot of people my age who were taking their careers very, very seriously. And at the time, I was dedicated, but I wasn't as bullish on pushing on that front. So when I started in this last company, it was more of obviously turn a new leaf and all that. My mindset had changed. So I didn't really feel as much of a transition because from the placement chair till then, I was already, like I said, I was working in the internships. That was more of now you're doing what you actually want to do. So I just enjoyed it more. I found myself, on my computer at home looking for sites. I genuinely just enjoy that sort of stuff. So I realized that, of course, I'm not personally, I believe you don't have to, but 9 to 5 can work for a lot of people, especially if you're trying to gain knowledge to maybe go and start something later on. But for me, I also appreciate that there are 9 to 5s that you might just appreciate and do that for the rest. I mean, I'm not saying that would have been me, but I really did enjoy that job role.
Well, if you find the right passion, 100%, like you say, you were doing
You gotta
something
do what you enjoy,
was
100%.
exciting.
Yeah.
Was new.
Genuinely enjoyed it. So that was a learning experience. I was very close-minded to the whole 9 to 5 idea beforehand. So now I'm like, if I had to do a 9 to 5 and that was it, I wouldn't be completely crushed. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, my preference is to continue pushing on my business and get my foot on the ladder myself. But I did enjoy that experience. It opened a lot of doors, a lot of opportunities for me. Same as university, the networking element of it was, incomparable to. So.
No, 100%. Okay, perfect. And that leads us on quite nicely then. So what was your first kind of insight? Everyone's got a different experience of how they first came across rent to service accommodation as a model. That kind of light bulb moment where you thought, that is where I could take the business.
So a good friend of mine, he was renting an apartment in Nottingham city centre, and he was subletting it. I don't know if he went through, the proper,
the proper
steps
process.
But at the time, service accommodation, Airbnb, all these sorts of things, they weren't booming the way they are now. And I thought, the idea makes sense. And he's now a massive property developer in Nottingham, so it may have paid off for him. So from then I realized, he's basically put no money down on this deal. He lives in the property and he's renting out one of the rooms as and when he can. So from then I thought, this model, in terms of barriers to entry for property, I thought was a good place for me to start. And then obviously when I was in my previous company, they gave me about 10 service accommodation properties to take over. And I, thought, it's got its challenges, but I also kind of see the beauty in that sort of game. And since then, I just kept pushing on that front.
I think from that side as well, the fortunate kind of aspect of having that management opportunity sit on your lap, gave you then maybe 2, 3, 4 months acceleration of mistakes you probably would have made managing those
100%. I mean, I apologize to that company for some of the errors I've cost them. I've cost them an arm and a leg. But I mean, that's the beauty of having a business behind you. Hence why I say to a lot of people, 9 to 5 is definitely not. It makes a lot of sense in many areas. If you have the knowledge, then by all means get going. But for me, I didn't have the infrastructure behind me to actually see projects through and deliver the service which I'd like to deliver now. So that was an amazing experience as well.
Perfect. No, 100%. And did you, from day one, obviously with that experience in mind, you self-manage now, right?
Yeah. So yeah. I'm managing. Sorry, could you say that again? Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of self-management, you manage all your units yourself. You have partners.
Yeah. I'm doing it all on my own. There was a team once upon a time, but as you could imagine, not everyone sees that sort of stuff through. For me, weirdly enough, there is more work now, and that's probably because I've also got the business side, which I've got to maintain, compliance and, building a brand, the social media stuff, etc. But on the management front, it is literally what I was doing before. That's where I gained the experience. I get help. So, for instance, on the service accommodation side, I've just secured a deal with an amazing cleaner. I don't even like calling her a cleaner because she does way more than that for me. She's great at SEO stuff for the website, which is something we'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, I mean, I've got good people around me who can help, but I would say arguably I am the sole person sort of managing the whole portfolio at the moment. So
I mean, that's a good point.
It's an interesting.
Sorry, I was just saying that's a good point to touch on. I mean, I know it's if you go to any courses or read any books about service accommodation, they'll say how important power teams are. But I feel like, when you're actually there doing it, you only then realize that that's actually the case. That can be the difference from getting a bad review and then kind of it goes downhill from there to what I mean?
Core of it, yeah.
I think that's something 100%. To definitely highlight to the rest of the community, to anyone, especially for yourself. It's not easy running a service accommodation unit, so having that kind of management experience, as you've mentioned, can kind of cover some of those things that come up, sort of thing. So yeah,
definitely. And on the experience side as well, what I would say is, as I don't actually think management in itself is super complicated. I think what I benefited a lot from was, contractors. So there's loads of contractors I already knew. from that job role, who I could reach out to now, and they're willing to help me out. It can be difficult when you're starting out. If you've got, 2-3 day turnover to get something sorted before the next guest comes in, and you've never spoken to a gas safety engineer in your life, or you've never dealt with, I don't know how some of them deal with invoicing in a weird way. So that's probably a major thing that I benefited from my previous job role as well. So obviously the knowledge is one thing, but literally the network, I cannot express how much value I gained in that respect from that company. So that's something which I'm quite bullish on now. If anyone were to ask what was the main thing I took from it, probably the network.
Yeah,
your network is your net worth. Yeah,
there you
exactly.
go.
100%.
Tag it up, put it on the content, a little slogan.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because obviously me and Evan being brothers, right, and setting the business up together, we've never had to really experience running a business on your own. And for us, we sing praises on having two of us, just from a kind of time capacity standpoint, even, right? Sometimes you can be as busy as you want, but you just don't have the time to do everything individually.
Of course.
How have you found kind of being on your own? You mentioned building that team. What were the reasons that potentially fell apart, and would you kind of build that back up in the future?
Yeah. So I would love to have a team around me. As you're saying, the workload can be a lot sometimes. Fortunately, I do enjoy what I'm doing, so I'm happy to work in the evenings, start my days earlier. If I can have a team in about a year or so who, if I've already got an infrastructure in place and I can say clearly this is a vision, then I'm sure that will work. The problem I find, or at least the problem I found, was starting out, one of us might want to go in that direction, the other might want to go in that direction. And, especially when you've got very passionate people or very ambitious, for example, it can cause a lot of friction. Mm-hmm. So, that's probably, I would say that's the main reason why it didn't work out as a group initially. I'm sure those guys are still doing what they're doing now. I wish them the best, of course. But from my point of view, I think if you're starting something out, unless you're 100% sure that the person or the people you're working with have the same vision, it can get a bit technical.
100%.
I know a lot of people have had the same issue. There's a lot of value in being in a team, but then that comes with its own complexities as well. You have to accommodate for the people.
For sure. Stuff. We've noticed it. I mean, we built our team around our family, really. So now, our mum sources for us, our dad supports on the
brilliant. That's amazing.
And obviously, it's our 2 or 3 best mates that are kind of working on the sourcing side. My girlfriend supports on operations. Evan's girlfriend supports on social. So we've, like you say, because it's so difficult to build a team with people that you haven't worked with before, or you don't know how they're going to kind of react to working with you. It may be kind of fine and dandy for 2, 3, 4 weeks. Of course, but that business is 2, 3, 4 years old, and you guys aren't getting on. It's never going to work. So we've noticed it. We've tried to hire people outside of kind of our close circle, and again, you'll see kind of a certain level of effort and kind of succinctness for a period of time, and then there's always that seems to be that stage where, because they're never going to have the same motivation as we have for running the business.
Of course, it's your business at the end of the day.
So we've looked at VAs as an option, and we work with a couple of virtual assistants. One in particular, Vanessa, who's very, very good. Cheaper, obviously, but secondly, in terms of work ethic and kind of speed and getting things done, they just want to get things done as quickly as possible. Attention to detail is incredible. So we've started compartmentalizing our tasks. So we'll look at like our business and say, what am I currently doing that I could definitely teach someone else how to do. And if I can put that into a nice instruction document and send that to a VA, and it costs me £50 a week instead of 10 hours of my time, then is my time worth that £5 an hour? Probably not, because I could have used those 10 hours here instead. So we've got like tasks like uploading deal packs to the website, things that are just data entry or kind of the same kind of model over and over again. So, look from a SA standpoint, like getting guest reviews, because we did management a bit ourselves. I mean, our background when we first started sourcing is we were selling deals with management. So we had like 52 properties under management in about 3 months, just from the deals we were selling. But as you can imagine, having not had any experience before, and then not only managing ours but managing 52 others for investors was just
That could have been a headache. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a headache. Yeah, exactly. So we transitioned away from that model, but in terms of kind of the principle of VAs, I think if we'd have implemented the right VAs, they can just. I think I've been to like an Expert Empires event, and they'll say like £10 tasks, £50 tasks, £1,000
Right.
tasks. There'll be tasks that you can define as £10 tasks. And
Right.
if it's
Right.
a £10 task, should you, as the owner of the business, be doing that task? Probably not, because you
Probably
could be
not.
doing
Yeah.
a £50 task or a £1,000 task, whilst someone else is being paid £3 to do the £10 task.
Yeah.
That
Of course.
kind of thing. But yeah, VAs for us have been very successful. But you've got both sides of it. You've got, if you find the wrong VA, you start getting overcharged.
Could go south. Yeah.
You haven't got control over work. We use Upwork, so timesheets get all uploaded to Upwork. We can see the amount of hours they've done every week, and it gets automatically charged through there, which works quite well.
Right.
But yeah.
I think it's just the
No, I
different
think
options that are
that's a
there.
great
isn't it?
idea.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I had looked at it briefly some time back, but to be fair, I should pick up listening to you guys. That does make a lot of sense.
If you think like
Especially
50,
now.
60 pound a week, but they can do 10, 12 hours worth of work, they'll probably do that 10 hours worth of work in it. Maybe it would have taken you 15, because they'll just be doing that one
That's what they're
compartmentalized
focused
task
on.
anyway. They're only
Yeah.
focused on that, so they only do that as quickly as possible.
Right.
And then you can just start building a VA for each section. Like you look at high level, you look at the US government, talk about all this UFO stuff and no one knows what's going on. It's because everything's so compartmentalized that each individual person is doing such a small part of that job, but so well and so efficiently, they don't actually know what the big picture is.
What's going on at a broader scale, yeah.
But they also don't really need to know what the big picture is, as long as they can do their part correctly and they can pass it on to then the next part of the chain.
They play their role. Yeah. No, I think that's great advice there. I think something I'll definitely look into again. Time is probably the biggest issue on my side, as you could appreciate. Like, if I'm on my own, I'm still trying to do viewings. So I'm still trying to go out, see sites, and
social
then
media
that can
content.
clash.
Yeah, and I presume you set up all your units yourself as well, like or do you get some support on a furnishing standpoint on that front?
So, because I'm on my own and I'm more or less just starting out, you could say, I can work quite flexibly in that respect. So the first property that I signed was actually staged already, furnished and ready to go, which was a massive blessing for me, because I would have struggled to get up and running. And the guy did a great job as well, to be fair. Then the next one, I was part of the staging. I worked with the investor quite closely, was there for all the deliveries, etc.
Nice, yeah.
Got it listed, and then from there I took it on. So I would like to be more involved with it, because I feel like I know what at a minimum is needed for a successful property and serviced accommodation. But some people have their preferences of what they would like to do with their properties, whether it's painting a wall or a carpet.
Exactly.
I can only say so much in that area.
I mean, from our side, we took on a 4-bed previously in Brighton, so BN2, but it was quite a large property from a landlord that needed a fair bit of work.
Right.
That was something that we went into with our mum, actually, on kind of a JV as such, while we were still sourcing and doing that kind of side of things. With that one, I think that we spent a too much money and time to kind of bring up the quality and standard to what it needed to be. But again, just as you've mentioned, like, it's just, that was something that we learned from a lot as well, because I think with a rent to rent deal, unless you're getting something like a purchase lease option or you're getting some extra alternative, you don't want to be putting a lot of money into a property that you're not
100%,
capital appreciation and stuff like that in the long term. So I think stuff like that's just important to get out there and let people know that, you like something like that. We definitely learn from doing it and learn from the mistake.
Something you said there, I think, is something I'm trying to explain to people when I start working with them, which is, yes, I know it's maybe your first or second SA deal and you want to invest in it, you want the property to look great. But I do find a lot of people overinvest, not to say, don't get your property to the highest spec possible. But if it's not your personal property, the capital appreciation is not for you.
And you don't need to like the armchair that's in the corner. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to like the armchair that's in the corner because it's £100, £200 more expensive. You know what I mean? You're not sitting on it. contractors going to be sitting on it and they'll be fine. We used to say, you know, spend enough to start getting bookings in, get it live, get it marketed. But once I mean, when we used to manage properties, we'd put them live. We'd have £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 worth of bookings per property on the first day that they go live, you know, just from the OTA sites. And then once you've got those bookings, you can go, right, I know I'm going to earn this amount by the end of the month. I've got £600 to play with. You know, maybe I can increase the nightly rate if I add this, this, and this.
That's different.
Add and adapt over time based on your profits, rather than, like we said, you know, our mistake was kind of the amount we spent on decoration alone, you know, was in the thousands without even the furnishings. So then you're in a position where you're already trying to recoup and recover, you know, that money, which can be difficult. But like you said, when you're it's furnished, it's especially that first one. I think when you're taking that first deal, a lot of the investors we speak to who are taking their first deal, be it come out of an academy or maybe they've been referred to by a colleague, a partner, a friend, you know, they always want something that is low upfront costs and furnished, because you can just prove the concept then. And for us, it makes sense. You know, we sell one deal. Our goal is never to sell one deal to an investor, because, you know, kind of it's our business is spot business that way. You know, our goal is to sell one deal, but because of that one deal, we're able to, you know, build a relationship with an investor. You make money off that first deal, and all of a sudden, because you've got that money and the cash flow, it becomes a positive cycle of win-win. You know, you've got the cash flow building up, you're going to buy more deals, we're going to be able to build your cash flow up further, and you kind of create like that. I mean, one question I'd have for yourself, you source them yourself. Have you ever had any, both positive and negative interactions with sourcers? You know, there's a lot in the market on sourcers. You know, what's your experience working with sourcing companies as a whole?
So there's a source I worked closely with who's based up north. And unlike you guys, I think most of the properties he was finding or the deals he was finding were in Sheffield. So I'm open to going there, but then it has to be a very good deal, because I'll be traveling and, you know, getting it ready to go is a lot of, you know, time on the ground. So that didn't go great, just because I couldn't actually do anything with the guy, but I found that he brought a lot of opportunities to the table. Since then, I believe, you know, since I'm doing this business myself, I don't see why I can't go out there and look for the deals. I basically do that on a daily basis. I'm door knocking and having lots of difficult conversations with people that aren't keen to speak to me about serviced accommodation, but it has to be done. You guys are the first people I've come across who are doing it, you know, a bit more on a national scale, you could argue. I know you're more south, you know, you're based more in the south, but then, you know, the amount of deals you keep finding, it seems to me like if you could find something, I'm sure if you could find a deal in Nottingham, you know,
100%.
You know, so I think sources work if you find a good sourcer. The question is, how do you find a good sourcer? You know, your page speaks for itself. You know, the deals are there. There's a lot of people that class themselves as sources because it's an easy thing to class yourself as. I bridge the gap between deals and investors. Sounds great as well, but then how many people are actually doing it is a whole separate story. So if 100%. I can't find a deal myself, I'll go to people like you.
And I think it's the timing as well, right? So right now, you know, with a couple of units, you've got the, you know, you mentioned the door knocking. That's quite interesting. I think that, you know, kind of those elements that you're able to do now, maybe when you've got 10, 15 properties, you know, you won't have the time to then do that, right?
For sure. For sure.
And I think a sourcer can come in at a variety of different stages. You know, we work with investors that come in as kind of, right, I've done buy-to-let, or I'm a developer and I've seen rent to SA. I like the idea of cash flow. You know, get me something fully passive, and we'll do kind of everything from day one. There'll be other investors that want to self-manage, like yourself, that want to build the experience and the knowledge. And whilst you're doing, you know, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, there's no reason, and I'd do the same thing, you know, to save the £3,000 fee that you pay for sourcing and find the deal yourself.
Of course.
And then I think it becomes, when in that relationship as you grow, you know, can a company like us come and support?
I mean, I'm fortunate again because I worked in the industry for the better part of a year. So I've got lots of people who work in sales who I've got good relationships with, who get off-market opportunities for me. So before the valuation's even been completed, or just after the valuation's been completed, or if there's a potential buyer who's considering doing serviced accommodation, I can get in there early, show them the numbers, explain why the deal stacks up, which helps my friends these agents with their sale, and obviously helps me get into the door earlier. So I wouldn't class them as sources, but then I think establishing a relationship with other agencies who maybe don't offer the service that you're offering, it's not the easiest conversation, because sometimes they want to retain the properties as well. But if you don't do service accommodation and the guy wants to do service accommodation, I'm in there first, then it works well for everybody.
Nice. And creating those win-wins, I think that's a massive takeaway from today. Creating win-win. If you're helping a sale, a guy on the sales side, because by offering the tenancy, they're then going to buy it. Everyone's a winner
100%.
anyway, right? So it's
100%. Yeah.
In property, I think there's so many ways to find solutions to problems.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't know about yourself, but almost every deal we work on, there's never a deal that will go all the way through nice and smooth sailing without an issue. There's always some sort of obstacle, some sort of certification out of place, some sort of landlord that's living in the attic.
Something always comes up.
Always something coming up.
I'd say that further, even outside of property as well, not even just specifically property, just business in general. For me, number one is finding solutions. If you're actively finding solutions and you're able to think kind of agilely and on the spot, then you will be able to, you'll be able to provide value. And once you can provide value to someone, then you can get paid essentially, or provide a service. So I think number one, solution.
100%.
For us, you think if you can make someone else money, then you'll earn money yourself, right? So
100%.
For us, that was, and I guess looking at why we started on the sourcing side, because we, when we first started, we were calling agents to take on SAs ourselves. But I think for us, it was cash flow, but also, our ability to grow that business to a level and then still bring in the portfolio, further down the line.
Right. Yeah.
So for us, I think it's just the timing element, and that probably leads us on quite nicely. We've got 5 minutes remaining.
5 minutes left, so yeah,
it'd probably be good to do a little bit on kind of what the goals are next 12 months, and hopefully we can jump on another podcast 12 months down the line.
For sure.
Have a look and see how many of those goals have been hit.
Definitely. So the goal on the management side is to get to about 35. That's the number I had in my head. The way things are going now, I feel like it's neither here nor there. I'm finding that the more properties I'm finding or securing, I'm getting more opportunities. I guess you have the track record there to back you. Whereas when I started out, my biggest challenge was showing people that I knew what I was talking about and that it would actually work. There's loads of scammers out here and stuff, for example. So, and I had to get through that barrier as a young guy as well. I'm sure you guys can appreciate it's not the same as, speaking to someone who's claiming they've got 50 years of experience behind them, even if you do have the experience. So the goal is to get to 35 still by the end of the year, next year.
Nice.
That's both SA and regular lets, because as I said, I'll be launching the lettings department, hopefully by February, March 2024. Nice. And then on the land side, I was close to securing a deal, which it might still work out, but I feel like it's just about slip through our fingers. If we secure that deal, it would probably be about 1.5 to 2 years to get through the planning and to get through, all the due diligence we needed to get through, as well as the legals, and then hopefully dispose about a year or so after that. So about 3 years down the line, I would like to say I've got my first large scale development that's been seen through end to end. If I've done at least one by the end of next year at a smaller scale, I'd be happy with that. But that's round about where I am. At least one deal by the end of next year, or a massive one secured.
And just touching on that land deal very quickly, because I think it's quite an interesting topic. So that would be on a JV basis using an investor's money?
Yeah, so the barriers of entry in land are extremely high. It's expensive to buy land. Planning comes at a cost, and you're risking money. You could get rejected after you spend 50k, which you won't get back. So I do fortunately have an investor. I've got two actually, but the one who seems more bullish at the moment is someone who's from overseas. He's got experience in land himself. He's done Dubai, Zimbabwe, and I believe he's done projects in Nigeria. So I've explained how the values work in the UK, and because of how the planning process works here, the values are significantly higher. Yep. So it was an easy sale. He's keen, and we're all on it. In fact, the office which I use in Nottingham, part of that has been secured through his support. So we're hoping to stay on it really. If we'd secured this last site, it would have been great. It was literally what we're after. If we can still get that, if not, then hopefully in the next few months we can, create a few more opportunities in that
100%.
respect.
I mean, give us some specifics on that side after the call, and from a sourcing avenue, we can see if we can present any land.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That might
I
match up.
appreciate that. Yeah.
For
Because
sure,
we're
yeah.
open to the whole country. I drive to all sorts of areas looking for sites.
Yeah.
Nottingham is obviously better for me because it's local. But if we secure a site, once the site's secured, how far it is from me is not as much of an issue, especially if we've bought it or if we've agreed a promotion or an option agreement. Spending a bit of time driving down south, wherever it is, makes a lot of sense. So if you guys have some opportunities in that respect, I'd love to talk to you guys about that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a good showcase, for us. Our backbone of our business has been rent to rent for 18 months, say.
Right.
But the first deal we ever sold was an £11 million portfolio, and we didn't even get paid a penny. We didn't get paid a penny for it because we didn't have our sourcing fees in place and all of that. So we've learned some big mistakes like that. But look,
I've been there.
We're building on the acquisition side. We've had some land opportunities coming through. We're speaking to a guy called Dave Green, who's quite high up on the government side with regards to new land regulations and land becoming available. So, look, hopefully there's something we can do there. I think,
definitely.
To very briefly close off the episode from my side, obviously, thank you so much for taking the time.
Really appreciate you jumping on, for sure.
Really useful conversation.
Thank you guys for taking time. Honestly, I've been keen to have this chat with you. I think I was speaking quite a lot of Evan. I think I might have irritated you at some point.
Never. I love it. That's what it's about, for sure.
The plan was to come see your studio, which I would still like to do.
100%.
A trek down, but I haven't been to Essex, I think, in years, to be fair. I've been there once. I'd love to come see what you guys are doing. If you ever have time, you're welcome to
we'll shoot some more content when you come over. And
for sure. For sure.
100%.
So
appreciate if you want to put your apps below as well, Instagram, YouTube, how people can reach out to yourself.
Definitely,
shout them out, and then we'll
any landlords in Nottingham as well, eh?
Any landlords in Nottingham that want management.
Any opportunities that I get on this side, guys, I'll definitely shoot them your way as well. Like I said, there aren't that many sourcing companies I've come across who seem that like they have a genuine infrastructure behind them, where you can give people confidence that they're in safe hands. So I'm keen to see how we can synergize together moving forward. But I appreciate the time you guys have taken today.
Yeah, amazing. Well, any questions you guys have, obviously put them in the chat below. We'll get them all answered. We'll be connecting with Mondli shortly, and really appreciate the time.
Stay locked in.
Thank you guys.
Love it, bro.